Welcome to episode 97 of The Bar is Ankle High. I know.
97. We're almost at 100.
I know. This is your favorite ADHD podcast that explores life's low bars with wit and wisdom. My name is Katie.
I'm Garrett.
And
short for cigarette.
Also on our Instagram stories. If you want ad-free and video episodes, also extended cut episodes, join our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. For just $5 a month, you get all of that, plus some goodies from us in the mail. You get an on-air shout out. You get added to our close friends list on Instagram. And you get bonus episodes when we upload those, which will be coming back soon. So, you know.
I feel like I need my glasses on because you have cool glasses on.
Oh,
so I feel like I need my other. Katie has very cool new glasses. They make her look like
$42.
Do you remember that show? Not the show, the movie. Remember Disney used to do those movies like on TV? Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century.
I never watched that, but one of the podcasts that I love, and That's Why We Drink, has a like, I guess, character, I'll say, in their podcast named Xenon, and it's a little alien that they have that like does stuff.
There was a pop star in this movie. It's about a girl who lives on like a spaceship. Basically, they're like all humans and they're from Earth, but they have this like connected, I don't know, whatever. So she's on the spaceship, and this guy is like a pop star coming to visit the spaceship and perform. And the song that they had, like this fake song, was so fucking catchy. All I could think as a kid was like, I wish I could buy this album. It's so good. So that's just what I thought of.
So do I look like the pop star boy or the main girl?
No, the glasses remind me of like what they wore. Everything was like very shiny and like,
yeah,
you know, iridescent and like very Star Trek-y. And they're just like, they're such cool, like futuristic glasses. And the clear,
thanks.
That's what it made me think of was Xenon.
Oh, cool.
Not that it matters to you, but I can't wait to find the song and send it to you so you can be like, that is catchy as fuck.
It's going to be stuck in my head forever.
It's already stuck in my head, but yeah, I can't wait.
So I decided this week, because we've like referred to this a lot, but we've never actually like explained it or discussed like why and how and what. But for a long time, at least since I was diagnosed in February of 2022, there's been a ton of discourse, generally, I think, among Gen X and Boomer people. But I've also heard this from millennials that like everyone has ADHD these days. Mm-hmm. And like I said, like we've kind of hinted to that alleged sudden influx of ADHD diagnoses, but we've never like outright discussed it. So I wanted to research it.
Cool.
So starting with the myths of and the causes of the overdiagnosis panic, I wrote it as the myths, the urban legends, and the ADHD boogeymen, because of course they're men.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always. And if it's not men, it's like women that are misogynist.
Yes.
It's like that patriarchal misogyny that I will never for the life of me fucking understand. But anyway.
Yeah. So the first one is like people think that they have it just because of what they've seen on social media. So this, I think, manifests in a few ways, like people being accused of or actually faking ADHD in order to be prescribed stimulant medications, modeling your behavior after people that you see on social media. And I think both during the pandemic, but also just the nature of social media in general, is set up in a way to surround you with similar content. So theoretically,
Echo chamber.
yeah, like you end up in this confirmation bias bubble rather than like objectively evaluating yourself. But I think that's the argument against the validity of an ADHD diagnosis, not the reality of like what having ADHD is. So, and like, as we've done those episodes on algorithm, whatever the hell, like the algorithm is going to give you similar content because that's what you're engaging with. However, if you're engaging with it because you're connecting with it because you have ADHD or you are having these similar experiences, it's sort of like a chicken and the egg sort of thing, I think, where at a certain point, like I see why some people think that you just think this because you've seen it on social media. However, it's to engage with something that you don't actually connect with is actually, I think, pretty hard. So,
yeah. Well, and like the vast majority of people are not going to be seeking a diagnosis for something. Like, I just think, like, in reality, are most people going to be like, I definitely have this? Like, most sane people are going to be like, maybe I should ask my doctor about this, or
yes,
let me do some more research. I mean, the people that are seeing something on social media and taking it to be that type of truth are the same type of people that think they are magnetic because they got a vaccination. I mean,
that's true.
It's
Yeah. So the other reason that we
do your research.
Well, the other reason that there's this like overdiagnosing panic is for the lax diagnostic standards that occurred during the pandemic and lockdown with like telehealth. Companies like Done ADHD, which I know that I see ads for like almost all the time. I'm sure everyone listening has seen at least one ad for this. They, like a company like Done ADHD, took off during the pandemic with promises of getting its subscribers connected with providers that would diagnose and prescribe ADHD treatment medications like Adderall through an internet portal. So Done is like it's a telehealth company. It would say like, it kind of like BetterHelp, like, oh, I think I'm struggling with depression, so let's get you in touch with a therapist who can like talk to you about that. This is like, hey, I think I'm struggling with ADHD. Okay, let's get you in touch with a provider who will prescribe you that medication. So
it's just like,
we'll get to it. And then the other reason that I think there's this like panic around ADHD diagnosis is that lockdown really did amplify symptoms of ADHD that either were dormant before the pandemic, or that potentially, like, for argument's sake, let's assume person A does not have ADHD, but during the pandemic, they're going stir crazy, seeking stimulus, struggling with impulsive purchases and all these different things that go along, like not keeping your house clean and struggling with all these different things that go along with ADHD. But the environment that we were all in during lockdown created a situation in which, you know, your life was manifesting itself in a way to look like ADHD, but it wasn't necessarily ADHD. However, if you got diagnosed and medicated during lockdown, there's this idea that like, well, you don't actually need it because that was just during lockdown. You were fine before lockdown, yada, yada.
And it makes you wonder too about a lot of these people, like how valid do they think serotonin imbalances and that you need an antidepressant, and how valid do they think crippling anxiety is, or, you know?
Well, and I don't know that we have any, I haven't heard anything, but I haven't heard anything about people complaining that anxiety disorders have been overdiagnosed since the pandemic. And I feel like if anything was going to get diagnosed first, it was going to be an anxiety disorder because everybody was fucking anxious. We all thought we were going to get sick and be hospitalized and possibly die. Like,
yes,
It was really fucking scary.
Like, you can't bring your groceries home. Like, we were just talking about that the other day. I don't even remember what part of the pandemic. I was like, oh my God, remember that? And we were both like, oh, because it was just like, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, also, if your thoughts are super anxious and jumping around, that's going to make you feel like you can't focus on anything.
Exactly.
Because you're in that fight or flight, like, panicky, shifty.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm waving my hand in front of my face. I'm there's a word I'm looking for that I can't think of. So you get what I mean.
Well, speaking of done ADHD, they were in the news last week because on Thursday, June 13th, 2024, its founding CEO, Ruthia He, and clinical president, David Brody, were arrested in San Rafael, California, pursuant to a federal indictment alleging that Dunn Global Inc. sold more than 40 million pills of Adderall and other medicines since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic without securely confirming the ADHD diagnosis.
Holy shit.
They have been charged with conspiracy to distribute and distributing controlled substances and could each face up to 20 years in prison. Yeah, according to the indictment, the company...
DOJ gotcha.
According to the indictment, the company, which was founded in 2019, was struggling to make money until lockdown when it started hastily subscribing patients to monthly auto refills of medication after brief telehealth calls that did not conduct a proper ADHD assessment or include any follow-up visits.
That's wild, because that's a controlled substance. That's a big deal.
And like, so when I started taking Concerta, my doctor was seeing me every 30 days as we like adjusted my dosage. But also their big concern was my heart rate and my blood pressure because it's a stimulant and it can affect your heart rate. Yeah. So like the idea that you're taking these medications at unknown doses without monitoring your health and checking to see if are you having suicidal ideation? Is it counteracting something else that you're on? Is it
reckless?
It's so dangerous. So, according to the indictment, the company carried out a $100 million scheme to defraud taxpayers and provide easy access to Adderall and other stimulants for no legitimate medical purpose and sought to profit from addiction by illegally distributing controlled substances over the internet. After the arrest announcements and statements from the Department of Justice, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a Health Alert Network health advisory to warn folks about possible disruptions in care and access to care for people taking prescription stimulant medications, and also warned of possible increased risks for injury and overdose. They warned that the patients who used Dunn to get their prescriptions could struggle to find new care providers, resulting in withdrawal symptoms if they're unable to maintain access to stimulant medication, and could result in some people turning to illegal drug markets to obtain medications that could be laced with other things like fentanyl, which is like super fucking deadly. But apparently, Dunn affects 30 to 50,000 patients over the age of 18 across the U.S., and those people are expected to experience disruptions to their care.
And I think there, with this, it is important to be having conversations with a primary care. It's important to be doing additional research so that you understand what the standard of care should be. Like when I was getting Adderall, I was going to see a prescriber, having a session. We were having a full conversation about it. And there was like, she had to like sign off on a refill. Like this was, it was very closely managed.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of like Sawbones almost. Like in Sawbones, they're always talking about like cure-alls and snake oil. And that's kind of what this is. Like if you're duping people to this extent where you're writing these prescriptions with no management, like what else are you telling them that's not, are you telling them that this is going to fix their ADHD? Are you telling, you know what I mean? Like,
it goes towards that like boogeyman thing where like, oh, if I can, it's like the pill mills for opiates. Yeah. If I just go in and say, oh man, oh, my neck just really hurts. My boobs are big, so my neck is always in pain. And they just willy-nilly are, prescribing me a 60-day supply or, a 30-day supply of 2 pills a day or however many of Oxy. Well, yeah, like you're not doing any clinical assessment to ascertain the level of my pain, whether my pain can be managed by something that's over the counter, whether
Right.
it's affecting my liver, how much opioids you're giving me, if it's affecting my cognition.
What's
Do I just
or
think I'm having pain
right.
because now I'm addicted to this medication?
Do we need to maybe fix the root of what's causing something? Like, and that's again, you know, do we need to sit and have a conversation and look at, you know, what are you doing with your time during the day? Like, do you need some things to fill your time that are like soothing hobbies? Like, are there things that you need that are, it's like when they prescribe not screen time, green time. Like, hey, do you need this? Like,
Yes.
And that's what is, I mean, it's lost with this, and it's so sad. It's so predatory, and gross. But there's just so many thoughts. I'm just like, I'm kind of mad thinking about it that
Oh, for sure.
you know, you think about like, I mean, my ADHD itself has not been, you know, managed medicinally in years, and I
you
can't
hear that?
imagine.
There's like a super low flying plane over my house. It was like making my house shake.
Kate, there was a ghost in Katie's house that just got sucked off. That's what that's.
Tune into Patreon.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're right. It is super predatory. So I did want to include this. So recently, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, reported lab testing indicated 7 out of every 10 pills seized from the illegal drug market contain a lethal dose of illegally made fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid that is up to 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine.
So
And
that's if you're buying Adderall on the street.
Yes, but it wasn't clear to me. This is from the CDC's announcement. So it just said lab testing of pills seized from the illegal drug market. I don't know if these are Adderall pills seized or
Yeah. Or if it's just whatever.
Regardless, I wouldn't risk it. But signs of an opioid overdose include unconsciousness or inability to waken, slow or shallow breathing or difficulty breathing, such as choking sounds or gurgling, snoring noise from somebody who cannot be awakened, discolored skin, especially in nails or lips, so like blue color, and small constricted, quote, pinpoint pupils, unquote, that don't react to light. So a person who has been misusing prescription stimulants might seek out illegal drugs that they believe can provide them with the same effects as the prescription. And transitioning to using illegally obtained drug products is extremely dangerous. Unlike prescriptions, which have clearly labeled ingredients, quantities, and other safety information, illegal drug products are less predictable and might contain unexpected substances, unknown quantities, and unknown potencies. So just public service announcement. Those are the signs of an opioid overdose, and you can get Narcan, I think, from the pharmacy. Like, you don't need a prescription, but it's behind the counter at the pharmacy in the US.
So. Yeah.
At least in New York,
they're
it is.
encouraging everybody to like know how to
Carry
use it. And
it.
I think it's
Yeah.
nasal. It's a nasal spray too, right?
There's two. I think Narcan is the nasal spray and naloxone is the injection, or the other way around. But either way, one is a nasal spray and one is like an EpiPen that you would like jam into somebody, and it would counteract the effects of the opioid.
Just mash it into somebody.
Yeah. You've seen Horrible Bosses, right?
Like a long time ago. And if
Charlie...
everybody remembers, my ability to retain information on something I've previously seen or watched is none. So every time you tell me, I'm like, it's like fresh. I'm like, oh,
well,
tell
there's
me
a
the story.
scene where Kevin Spacey, which like, ugh, but
Yikes.
he...
Can we talk about somebody? It's not surprising when somebody got taken down for being a creep. Kevin Spacey, there's a reason he plays creepy so good. But anyway.
That's true. But yeah, in the movie, he's allergic to peanuts. He comes into contact with like the wrapper that a peanut butter and jelly sandwich was in. Charlie Day, he has his EpiPen on him, and Charlie Day is like trying to read the instructions really fast, like while he's choking. and like stabs it into his chest. And then like, because it's an epinephrine pen, nothing really happens. Like it looks like he's taking a deep breath like Kevin Spacey is. And he's like, what about little jabs? How about little jabs? And he starts like stabbing it into his chest over and over again. It's just the most ridiculous thing. He's like, I saved somebody's life. I'm like, I'm on a high right now.
He's got to be, I mean, I've seen Always Sunny. I'm assuming he's Charlie Day in everything.
Pretty much.
Or Charlie Kelly. What's his real name?
His real name's Charlie Day.
Okay, so Charlie Kelly. He's Charlie
Yes.
Kelly always. Okay.
I think he's Charlie Day always, and then has different names assigned to him.
That's probably more accurate. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you are dealing with, if you have used Done to get your prescriptions, you know, now you know that you probably aren't going to be able to get that refill from Done anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Merrick Garland's going to be contacting you about your refill. That's
Yes.
wild.
And there are resources. I'll include them. I'll look them up and make sure to include them in the resource in the sources for today's episode in the show notes. But I'm fairly certain like the Mayo Clinic has tips on how to like, if you know that you're coming to the end of your prescription and you're not going to be able to refill it. Yeah. How to like kind of wean yourself off safely so that you don't have these withdrawal symptoms. And you don't have, you know, any adverse effects. But back to how everyone suddenly has ADHD.
Yeah. That's a really fascinating turn of events, though.
Yeah.
God, it feels so... I love that. It's like when you're driving and somebody's being really aggressive and passing people and then they get pulled over up ahead and you're like, that's how this is. Like, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, like you said, I think it's very exploitative. They took off during the pandemic, understandably, you know. At the same time, you know, having no oversight, no double checking that the diagnosis was accurate, you know,
right.
It's the sort of thing where that is what a pill mill did. And
yeah.
This is why people were dying from opioid overdoses and getting addicted, you know, in record numbers. And because there were these doctors' offices, quote unquote, where they just didn't ask questions. Oh, you're not feeling good? Okay, here's some opioids.
And this is capitalism at work. This is like profits over people. So
yes,
you have a company that sees an opportunity to be predatory and take advantage of people. And they are, I mean, especially subscription services where you're paying every month and people who... I'm sure, you know, they've got people who really have ADHD who haven't been like diagnosed through the proper channels who have a hard time maybe canceling subscriptions like me.
and especially, you know, you think of not even having trouble canceling subscriptions, but the idea that there are barriers to care for people. There 100%. Are people whose their insurance company won't allow them to have like a official ADHD assessment with a psychologist. There's like all these different barriers to care that we already have to deal with. But then, and like you said, like the wait time. So maybe your insurance will cover it, but you have to wait another 6 months to have an appointment. And then,
and you're like, in the meantime, work is a problem, personal life's a problem, like my space is like everything's piling up and becoming a problem. You're like desperate.
Yeah. And if this offers for this to be like, yeah, we'll charge your insurance and we'll give you this diagnosis and no problem. And then it's like, I think also for me, it's very easy to check that off my list. So then the official assessment that I was going to have in person becomes a non-issue for me because I've already 100%. Handled it. Like the problem solved, whatever. Right. And exist, not because I was trying to do anything untoward or pull one over on anybody, but it's just done and it's handled. Like, hence the name of their fucking company, Done. And
yes, done and handled ADHD. Well, and I think there's also another reason that this was able to take off the way it did is we talk about this a lot, but because there hasn't been a ton of research and we don't have like a real standard of care, which again, we've talked about before, like it comes up a lot with like women's healthcare. Like, where is the standard of care? Why does everyone have such a different interpretation over what's normal? So you don't have okay, you have blood work done, or they discover, something on a biopsy that they're concerned with. There's a workup for that. Okay, we're going to do this, and then this, and then this, and then you're going to meet with this one, this one, this one. When it comes to something like this, the way I was diagnosed, the way you were diagnosed, the way my spouse, PK, like Jamie, we've all had a completely, like, I didn't have a screening. I had a couple sessions with a therapist who literally stopped me and was like, you have ADHD. That's why you're struggling with that. And I was like, oh.
Right.
It's so like, no wonder things like this were able to take off. No wonder you have people that are self-diagnosing, because it's like the diagnosis is kind of arbitrary.
Yeah. Especially for adults.
And depending on where you live. I mean, when we were talking to Jamie, I was shocked when she talked about how thorough her diagnosis was. Yeah. I was shocked, and I was like, she lives down south. My thought would have been, oh, the Northeast, we're definitely going to be the ones who are more on top. It's arbitrary. So when you have things like that, like there's no course. Yeah. There's no paved road for somebody to say, okay, like, these are the steps that I need to take to get this taken care of. Like, if I think I have a thyroid issue, I'm going to call my doctor. She's going to do blood work. Like, I can't do that with ADHD. So I think that I don't know if I want to say like the market, but like the system has allowed things like this to thrive. Yeah. Which I'm sure they do it with every other, corner of the internet for all of these different diagnoses, where things are just kind of like loosey-goosey. Like, we don't have a real solid plan for things like this. So yeah, it then creates openings for people like that to take advantage of other people. And it's
for sure
the shittiest.
Yeah. The shittiest. Oh, absolutely. But I did find a study from 2022 that was evaluating the apparent increased prevalence of ADHD. So it was an analysis of the National Health Interview Survey that reported from 1997 to 2016, the prevalence of ADHD among children increased from 6.1% to 10.2%. In 2022, the study, now I don't know what that previous study in 2015 was comprised of, but the 2022 study was comprised of 37,609 individuals aged 4 to 17 years old. 18,185 were female, so 48.35%, and 19,424 were male, so 51.65%, so about half. Yeah. 24% were Hispanic.
That's a good size sample size too. That's a lot of people. Yeah.
24% were Hispanic. 10.95% or 11% were non-Hispanic Black. 52% were non-Hispanic white. 12.5% were non-Hispanic other. And among them, 10.9% were reported to have ever been diagnosed with ADHD. So
it went up 4% in 7 years?
It went up, it went up 0.7%. It went from 10.2% to 10.9%.
So
yes, exactly.
Get fucked.
So there were differences in prevalence by age, sex, race, and ethnicity, and family income to poverty ratio. But this study, and it noted at the end that one of the defects in the study is that it does rely on parent-reported data, which can be very skewed for cultural and other reasons. So they did
if you have a parent that thinks that you're faking ADHD.
Or, again, it's that sort of thing of like, well, that's just how boys act, or
that's how whatever. I was at that age.
Yes.
Right. Ma'am.
But I was heartened to see that the study like acknowledged that that is a
Yeah.
problem, but
Yeah.
like also these are minors and there's really no way around it.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the behavior that these people are reporting, whatever. But the importance of the study is that between 2017 and 2022, we're still in the 10% range. So nothing has changed in the past 7 years with the pandemic, with differences, with studies in, I think 2015, just starting to use women in them. So like, it's all these things where it's like, no, the numbers are the same. And that's the nice thing about statistics. Like, yes, you can make a statistic say what you need it to say if you know how to fudge the numbers and use them in a way that proves your point. However,
Yeah, like if you contextually, you can make data look like a lot of different things.
right.
Yeah.
But it is also a very evening out process because it does provide you a very black and white way of comparing data sets. So we're looking at the 2016 and the 2022 data set, and it's effectively the same.
Yeah.
So I will say that one of the struggles for people with ADHD, and was definitely for me as someone who was diagnosed officially after the pandemic, is that there is not that much research out there. And we've discussed this before. You mentioned it earlier. ADHD is often accompanied by multiple comorbid conditions, which can be completely different conditions and could be masquerading as ADHD. So like, for example, we mentioned anxiety. During lockdown, you can have a poor attention span, poor sleep cycle, forgetting to eat, hyper-focusing. You might also have that lead into depression. And like, I'm definitely on the side of TikTok where there's like the cleaning TikTok because we talked about spring cleaning. I'm on ADHD TikTok because of what we do.
Yeah.
So then together, I've seen a lot of videos of people cleaning out their quote depression dens or depression caves. And like every time I look at these, I'm like, this is what my bedroom looks like. Like if I don't stay on top of my shit, especially before I was medicated, that's just what my bedroom looked like. Like there's just clothes everywhere. And even as a child, like I remember my mom telling me, you'll clean your room when you are embarrassed to have friends over and see your room like this. She was like, I don't care. I can close your bedroom door and I don't have to look at it. But this is your ball of wax. You're an adult.
As I struggled a lot, like especially between ages like maybe 8 and 12, I would say that's when it was like, and I think that's when I really started noticing the ADHD, but that's when my room was like,
oh, you mean when your puberty started?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look at you connecting dots that I haven't connected yet. Yes, so puberty would be when my ADHD really kicked off. I started noticing, I would say like 7, 8, and I matured really early, so that's probably when I just started hitting puberty. And by the time like I was a teenager, I then realized it was bad and then like went the other way and got super anxious and like neurotic about managing things.
I didn't do that part. I just stayed messy.
I sent Katie a meme it wasn't really a meme, but it was a post the other day, and it was a cat, and the cat was just like really close to the camera, and it said, "Look at us, just two stinky girls." That's what that made me think of. I'm still messy.
Just me and Sophie against the world.
But that's reality. You and Sophie against the world. No, but for sure, like I've seen those videos and I'm like, but that's how my room looks when I get too busy and overwhelmed to clean something.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
What are you saying, internet?
Well, and that's just it. So like it's that kind of thing. And so again, it's like, is that depression or is it ADHD? And you have these overlapping symptoms. You can have
and it's
something,
chicken egg.
Yes, exactly. It's it's the kind of thing where like that this was I can say like I was not depressed most of my life, but I did end up with PTSD and definitely had some manic periods and some depressed periods after that. And then I got diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder after that, which, makes sense. But the reality is that like my anxiety is much better. I still take an anti-anxiety medication, very low dose, but I take that with my ADHD medication, and it is so much better managed now that I'm on ADHD medication and not just anxiety medication.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing where like now I'm able to maybe have a fight with my significant other over doing the dishes because I see the mess that I probably would not have seen before I was medicated.
And that's amazing. Like,
yes,
I know, like, for me, so my ADHD is not managed, it's fully feral, but my like the anxiety depressive symptoms that I get are managed with Zoloft. And that's enough. I feel like that brings my anxiety down enough that it's not triggering my ADHD to be so much worse. Because I think that happens with me a lot. It's like when my anxiety gets really bad, it's like too many directions to go.
Well, it's your amygdala, right? So like that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. And it makes my focus so much worse. So I found like if I can control these other things and keep all of these other things managed, it's going to keep my ADHD manageable to where I'm just at my normal level of dysfunction, which is totally fine for me. Like I can work with that. And I've developed enough tools throughout my life to know how to trick myself into doing things. But it is for sure like, and that's the other thing that kills me about this app handling things for people like that is like, I go to my primary knows that I've had a history of anxiety, like knows that I'm taking Zoloft to kind of like balance that out a little bit. And, you know, if I say to her like, hey, I think I need to, you know, lower my dose, increase my dose. Like I've got this going on. Like there's so much to be said for like that relationship component. There's like certain things that like AI and an app and a shitty platform cannot replace. And that's one of those things, like having somebody that knows what's typical for you and what's not.
No, I agree. I think there's so much to be said for having that kind of relationship with your primary care provider. And because this past February or March or whatever, I increased my anxiety medication from 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams. Like,
whoa. Meanwhile, I was like, I'm going to go from 25 to 50. Thank you very much.
But, you know, it was the kind of, and when I got put on Concerta, my doctor even said, the same one who's prescribed me Concerta and diagnosed me with ADHD was like, let's keep you on the Lexapro because you can end up in like a spiral sometimes with ADHD because you're focusing on what you haven't done or what you think you should be doing. So let's just keep you on the Lexapro and like, you know, we can always take you off it. It's not that big of a deal, yada, yada. And then I was able to say to him, like, you know, I've like been unhealthily focused on our trip to Europe. And like, I'm not sure that that's normal. Like
I'm getting some perspective here.
I freaked out way too much over the size of my suitcase. That's not normal. Might need a dose. And he was like, yeah, it's just a tune-up. Like that happens. Like, and it was just so nice to like have this conversation with somebody that it's like, yeah, you know, not sure what the deal is. It's not working for me anymore. But to have that conversation and that follow-up and like somebody who knows me. I mean, this guy has been my doctor since I was 18. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where I think it's definitely a place of privilege to be able to say that I've had my doctor for this long. But that's what happens when you end up living as an adult in the place you grew up in as a child. So
yeah.
You know.
And you know, the other thing that's like getting me about this, like people saying this like influx of people diagnosed, how many of those people should have been diagnosed when they were 10 and weren't diagnosed and now they're 40?
Well, and you know, so one of the sources in the show notes is an article from Time magazine, and one of the folks that they interviewed was a psychiatrist or something, but said her primary concern about potential misdiagnosis of ADHD is the possibility that people have those other conditions that are being missed. So plenty of mental and physical conditions can lead to concentration or behavior issues that look similar to ADHD. And many clinicians are not prepared to sort through those differences. And then she said that's in part because ADHD has received less research funding than other mental health conditions over the years. So clinicians simply know less about it. In 2022, the National Institute of Health granted $78 million for the study of ADHD, compared to, guess how much for depression?
$1 billion.
I mean,
that's too much. I know it's too much.
It's not that far off. 655 million. Over $500 million. Yeah. What? To study depression. And we get 78 million to study ADHD.
Jesus Christ.
So overall, it seems like experts in the field agree that even if there is an overdiagnosis of ADHD, it's actually a good thing because it means that people are finally getting access to care that they need. The reality is that if the diagnosis, whether it's a self-diagnosis or a professional diagnosis, if that diagnosis does explain you to yourself, and if the medication does help you function more like a neurotypical person, it's not a bad thing. So if you have an easier time holding a job and keeping your house clean and paying your bills on time and taking care of yourself, just because it's not depression that was cured with this medication or whatever, it still is a good thing that you gotten a diagnosis. And again, like they said, you are getting access to care. So as long as you're not, using these type of revolving door services to maintain your care, if you're actually seeking and obtaining true health care with the follow-ups and the relationship with your providers that you need, then, maybe a little overdiagnosis isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. I just, like, worse things have happened than
people advocating for themselves.
Yeah. Like,
I would say.
I mean, I think the app and the, fucking hoodwinking of people and mismanaging them and doing all this dangerous shit is one thing. But, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like people thinking they have ADHD and maybe using all of these tools to help themselves or whatever else, like, if that's improving your life, then qui gives a shit.
For sure.
Like,
I agree.
Do what's going to work for you. And I mean, and that's the other thing too. Like, if you've been living with ADHD, we're still, like, we'll cover a topic and I'm like, oh, so when I do that, that's like a tool that I've developed to survive.
Yes.
Because my brain doesn't work the same as other people's. So it's just like one of those, like, you've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other way to think of it too. Like, if you're diagnosed and you're 35, like, you've been doing it this whole time. That doesn't mean it's been easy or it's been good or smooth, but you've been fucking doing it. So
yeah,
if you've been doing it that long, you can also, like, advocate for yourself and go to the doctor. This is me talking to me because I have a hard time advocating for myself. Or the irony, I'll go to the doctor with a whole, like, dissertation written of why I think something's going on. And she stops me 5 minutes and she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, but I did homework. I wrote an essay about why it's real.
I have a book report.
100%.
My poster.
And she's like, yeah, it's okay, it's all right. I know you did a good job.
I know. Good.
So smart.
So big.
You're the best patient I have. Yes, I know that's what you're looking for.
You win the patient contest. Good job.
We've all been talking about it. Everybody, was worried.
We all agreed and we all voted. It was a landslide. You win. You win, Garrett.
Oh my God.
Cigarette is our favorite patient.
So terrible. It's so terrible. But no, it's definitely, like, I feel like that was just, like, the perfect storm. It was like, the inability to see people in person, the high stress, everything was high stress. Like,
yeah.
Every little thing you had to think about, everything you were doing, like, there's definitely going to be a level of PTSD that comes with, like, getting through the pandemic for all kinds of people. But, like,
I
you've got
still
all
have
of those
a
things.
squirt bottle thing, like a pump bottle of hand sanitizer in my car that I use after I pump gas every time. I never did that before the pandemic. I didn't give a shit.
I
I'd
used
pump
to-
gas and then eat food. Like,
So I've always kept hand sanitizer in my car specifically for pumping gas.
nah.
Katie's like, the germs are good for you.
Yes, my mother used to tell us you have to eat a pile of dirt before you die. And so you don't need to worry about it.
Katie took that as a challenge. She was like, give me the dirt.
It was a true story. And, might as well eat it in little bits than a whole pile right at the end. Right?
Katie's like hedging her bets. She's like, you can't force me on my deathbed to eat dirt. You know how long it's going to take me to eat a pile of dirt when I'm old and dying?
Plate of dirt. I don't want a mud pie. Fuck you.
I just love the thought of you taking that, not as like a, don't be worried about a little dirt, but as a challenge. I have to eat a plate of dirt.
Are you calling my mom a liar?
That is one of the most Katie things I've ever heard. That literally made me laugh cry. That is so funny. I can't even. Yeah, no, ever since I saw somebody at the gas station sneeze into their hand and then put it on the pump when I was like 17, like right after I got my license, I was like, not touching those.
Interesting.
And kept
I
hand
did
sanitizer
just
in my
watch
car.
the Curb episode where Ben Stiller sneezed into his hand and then got pissed that Larry refused to shake his hand. Pretty much any time that Ben Stiller's in a show and has like an absolute conniption as like a very ragey person, I find it to be the funniest thing because I'm pretty sure he is probably the most easygoing, mellow person who's ever walked the earth because his father was Jerry Stiller.
He does a very good job of like the like bunchy body.
Are you kidding me?
He's very good at that. Also, I never thought Ben Stiller was good looking, but now with the gray hair, I'm like,
yeah, he's getting that silver fox thing going.
okay,
Yeah.
It's doing same thing with Steve Carell. I'm like, okay, you look better now.
Yeah, Steve Carell looks great.
Yeah.
He
Although
also-
we
there was a
do need to
clip-
send Katie to jail for thinking Matthew Broderick is good looking.
They're in the same league as those two people you just mentioned. Matthew Broderick, Ben Stiller, and Steve Carell with silver hair. All three of those guys are in the same league.
I need somebody else to weigh in and tell me that Matthew Broderick looks like a sweaty guy. Like somebody else just needs to verify that he. I
need Matthew Broderick to weigh in. Please send us a voice memo on Instagram because I will. I'll never have to argue with you ever again because I will be right forever if Matthew Broderick or Sarah Jessica Parker sends us a voice memo explaining that they're not sweaty people.
I think this is what I think about.
There's no way that Sarah Jessica Parker is married that long to a sweaty, clammy hand man.
All I can think about. You say Matthew Broderick, and I immediately thinking about what it would feel like to have him put a sweaty hand on me, and I just can't.
Why is it his fault you're a pervert?
Blech.
Stop picturing it.
I can't. It's like in my head. So now every time Matthew Broderick comes up, I'm like, clammy hand on me, or like on a boob. I don't know why. That's immediately where it goes. Clammy hand on a boob, and I just want to barf. So sorry, everybody. But also, can we have a poll so we can vote on whether or not Matthew Broderick is gross and sweaty and clammy?
Maybe.
That's all I'm saying. I
That's
feel
what
like
happens when you don't run the social medias.
That's true. It is true. I just have to sit here and spin in space about how sweaty I think he is. I think that was an interesting topic, though, because I do think that, like, I'm trying to think how I want to say this. I think there are components to, like, what is expected of us in terms of functionality on a daily basis as just adults in 2024 that replicate some ADHD symptoms. Like when we talk about multitasking. Like, okay, if I'm at work and I'm trying to work and I have phone calls coming in, Teams messages, emails, people coming to my desk. I'm supposed to constantly be prioritizing those and be able to work something to completion. So I do think like, you know, push notifications and even just like I was listening to a thing the other day. They were talking about the volume of things, how this is like a whole separate like nerdy rabbit hole. But they were saying
volume as in like how loud it is or volume in quantity?
No, like and how loud something is. They were saying that like what used to what happens is like CGI and stuff is so prevalent in movies and they're so concerned with the visuals that they forget about the audio. So you wind up having audio that's like sometimes really quiet and then 2 seconds later it's like super loud. So you're constantly like adjusting the volume. Like I feel like that too is just something else that lends itself to like loss of focus. So they were saying how everybody has to use subtitles because the audio is so bad in movies and TV. And that also distracts you. So I just feel like everything is set up, ad breaks in stuff that you're streaming or stuff that you're watching online. Everything is set up for this super short attention span. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you've got capitalism pushing so much shit at you and wanting it's just like to me it's like it's almost like the rat race is like feeding that. So like yeah, of course we have poor focus and attention span when you're just like cramming ads at us. Like if when you try and scroll on a website and you have 400 banner things popping up,
the worst.
And like the internet isn't usable anymore.
Yeah,
because you've got this because we've allowed these advertisers and these companies to just like run everything. So I do feel like there's so many components to it that like of course that's how people feel.
When you said the volume of things, I instantly thought of the self-checkout lines where sometimes it's like place item in the bagging area and then other times it's like place item in the bagging area, you dumb bitch. And I hate that there's like a difference in the volume. Even if I sign in with my like member ID, whatever the hell discount card thing, and it
I would love for Katie to be the
saves
person
my preferences.
I want you to voice the bagging equipment just so that when I'm standing in a Hannaford, I can hear, place them in your car, you stupid bitch. Please. Someone who's in control of that in the universe, take care of that because I would love for that to happen.
I'm sure the person who's in charge of that is listening to this podcast.
For sure.
Everyone else listens,
okay, so let me take notes here. So rat race. push notifications. Okay, volume, bagging. Okay. That's a weird list.
Why is that volume different every time? I don't need it to be different at all. I
literally
don't need it to
feel that
say
way about
a single
everything.
thing. I just need it to beep so that I can confirm that it has scanned the goddamn thing that I'm trying to scan. I don't need you to tell me where to put my groceries. I definitely want to take them with me. Almost every time.
hate the fact that they have 40 registers, one register open with somebody working, and then 30 self-checkouts. So they're just saying to people like, you got to do your own fucking work. You're not on payroll, but you got to check yourself out. I hate it. I hate self-checkout. My spouse will only use self-checkout. And
I prefer self-checkout.
Huh?
I prefer self-checkout. And PK will go to an aisle where the person is working. Because he has to have a conversation. Because I'm in love with a golden retriever.
Yeah, I don't want to have a conversation. Hey, and you know what else I hate? I hate bagging my own fucking groceries. I hate it.
Oh, I don't mind bagging my stuff because I want it put in a way that makes sense to me. And a lot of times when
I want that too, but I want somebody to read my mind and do it for me because I fucking hate doing it.
See, that should get saved into your card preferences when you swipe your member card. Along with the volume preferences, it should be like they want bagging option A or whatever. And like you just make your profile online and they know how to bag your shit. TM. Bars Ankle High 2024. That's our idea. We got it. So when that becomes a thing, I want the credit for our podcast.
Katie the lawyer doing her lawyer thing again.
Yeah. Can't tell you what the fuck
POA.
a pattern of a power of attorney does, but you know,
I love
I'm
how
gonna
aggressive
TM the
it was.
shit out of my really cool idea.
Also, TM, put your stuff on the thing, you stupid bitch. I also love the thought of the machine saying that to you, but like kind of stumbling a little bit as it comes up. Hey, put your bananas on the belt, you bitch. I mean on the carousel thing in your reusable bag on top.
You know, the Mayhem guy from those Allstate commercials?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that. Like, I am female Mayhem.
That's fair. I'm female Mayhem when the baby's napping and I need to get something done. And I'm running around with a bucket and a mop and a duster cleaning the side of my house. I'm my own kind of Mayhem.
Again, tune into Patreon for that story.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. I'm losing the threads of what was what.
That's okay. It's on Patreon.
Hashtag the bars angle. That should be your weekly podcast where we lose the threads of what happened. When. But no, that was interesting. I mean, I
just thought
I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I thought it was good for like, I mean, myself, but also like our listeners to be like, especially the thing at the end. Okay, so in 2022, there was 78 million in research given to study ADHD and 655 million to study depression. Which I'm not saying that we don't need to study depression, but I am saying
we know
don't come
a lot
at
about
me
depression
and tell me that I don't have ADHD when, like, theoretically, most providers can't discern ADHD from anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, so don't tell me that I don't have it. Like, don't tell me I don't know what I am. And like, what is your solution then? Like,
suffer. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You dumb bitch. And would it even be an episode of The Bars Angle High if Garrett didn't go on an unhinged rant about the man?
Yeah.
But it is like it's just, you know, you've got people, these keyboard warriors that have something to say about fucking everything, and it's, do you have a solution? Nope. It's just whataboutism. It's just people getting mad about somebody, I don't know, improving their lives. Like
the sticker that I have from Garrett that says "Men's doesn't control me" on my water bottle.
If you've seen that episode of 90 Day Fiancé, I scrimped. She said it and I was like, that's right. I think her name was Julia. That's right, Julia. Men's doesn't control me. You know who does, though? Our editor. You know who does control us? Our editor controls us.
He tries.
He does try. He does try. Tries really hard. His joke is usually like he's trying to stop us from like saying something that will somehow get us canceled, which we appreciate because I think we need a little bit of that. Just a scotch.
I was just gonna say, just a smidge,
just a little
just
bit,
a little bit.
As he's sitting there editing it, going, "You dumb bitch." But no, it's well, you know, it's just like when somebody comes out and says Kevin Spacey's a creep, and then everybody goes, "Why didn't you come out sooner?" Like, get fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly like, there's some times where you're like, you see people that are never on the internet who are happy, and you're like, what's that like?
They've really got it all figured out.
They do. And you know, you realize like, oh, they just don't know other people's opinions.
Yeah.
I think that was the best part of leaving Facebook. I was like, you know what's great? I don't have to know how anybody feels about things. I don't need to know what somebody I went to middle school thinks about a cucumber salmonella outbreak. It's great. That was in the news recently. That's the only reason I'm pointing it out. It's the only reason I'm using that as an example.
When you said cucumber and then paused a little bit, I thought you were going to talk about the videos where people were putting cucumbers behind their cats and freaking their cats out because their cats would turn around.
People got
and, like,
really
jump.
mad about it.
Yeah.
Because they think it's a snake Their evolution.
I thought that's what you were going to talk about.
No.
You didn't know people's opinions about cucumbering your cat or whatever the fuck it's called. I don't know if
it's a different thing,
that.
Katie. That's a different thing.
That's on the dark web. Got it.
That is the same area as me on my hands and knees using a big tool. And 69ing the Navage to get sucked off. I can't wait to hear I can't wait until the poll goes up and then I find out what our episode title is going to be, because it's always something fun. There was the caption under the one for the episode we did with Sarah was really funny, and I don't remember what made me snort laugh, but something made me snort laugh.
On the Instagram post?
Yeah. For the post of whatever you put up for the episode we did with Sarah, I cackled when I read it.
The one that said, "Did you think we forgot? You'd be right if you did." Because I posted it in the evening because I forgot to make the episode square. Or Harry Houdini, the inventor of getting punched in the tummy and dying, would be very impressed with this week's episode.
Getting punched in the tummy and dying. That's what set me off. I laughed very hard at that. Yeah, you know what? You want to do let's do a test. So I think, you know what? Maybe that's what we should do for our 100th episode. We should each make a ADHD assessment of what we think should be asked. Of somebody,
and then
who
give it to
potentially
me, like assess each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea.
Because like, would Harry Katie's ADHD assessment would be, what do you I can't even get it out. What do you know about Harry Houdini?
No, but you would do it as Jiminy Glick. What do you know about Harry Houdini? What is it? Tell me about. Tell me what.
I almost fell off my chair when we were recording that episode, and Katie stopped us to correct us about Harry Houdini's philosophy of illusion. And everybody has those moments where they go, wait, do I also have autism? That was my moment where I went, does Katie also have autism? It was so good.
Maybe.
What if I do? So that's...
I look cute.
Would somebody autistic pick these glasses? Yeah, I don't know, Katie. Did you pick them? It's just...
You gotta watch the video of this episode.
So
guys.
funny.
Join Patreon.
It really does make it. It does make it. But that was a good episode. I think it was good to talk about. And I'm also glad that the DOJ caught those guys and arrested them on federal drug charges.
Yeah, wild. For basically drug trafficking.
We love that accountability.
Nuts.
We love the accountability of somebody who's taking advantage of people getting caught.
Yeah, somebody named David Brody.
Yeah.
Very
I'm surprised
Brock
it's not a
Turner
Gary.
name.
We've had a bunch of Garys.
Yeah.
There's been we have a lot of Garys on our enemies list. Katie, did you just meow?
Yeah, like the snail in SpongeBob.
From SpongeBob. You know what? I will have a SpongeBob reference for our next episode.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
PK
that's good.
will like it.
That's good. He will like it.
Well, you'll have to wait till next week to hear the next episode with SpongeBob in it. But until then, you can join our Patreon and get this super cool video episode by going to patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. It's $5 a month. You get ad-free, extended, and video episodes. You also get an on-air shout-out. You also get added to our close friends list on Instagram, where you get to see behind-the-scenes stuff and maybe some of the spicier memes that I find and share to our stories.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And you can check out our merch at bit.ly/anklehighmerch. You can follow us on Instagram and Threads at The Bar is Ankle High. We're also on Facebook at The Bar is Ankle High Podcast. And we're on TikTok at Ankle High Pod. I think that's it. That's everything.
It sounds right to me, but I'm not the expert.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's everything. If it's not, well,
too bad.
You only know it's not because you've been listening to them all, so good job.
If it's not, put it on the cart, you dumb bitch. That's got to be the name of the episode. I just can't. I just want to use it as the punchline for everything now. It was the leaning back to really.
Well, because I didn't want to scream into the microphone.
Yeah, no. I mean, I also give you, as I just boot my screen 400 times, I give you props for thinking ahead and leaning back when you screamed, because I forget to do it constantly.
Yeah, I had one single moment of clarity, so
it was great. We loved it.
Thanks. So until next week, just, hold on as tightly as you can to your single moment of clarity. And
or the big tool that you're using.
Yeah, because the bar is ankle high. Bye.